It's time to relax. Not time to panic, but it's time to start thinking about the future today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is January 21st, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, why it is not yet time to panic. Calm down. Slow up. Let's give this team some time to get healthy. We'll talk a little about why the Magic are not in trouble yet. We'll also talk about why they need to make sure they're not in trouble moving forward. We'll get to all that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. And you can make Locked On Magic an even bigger part of your day with the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter. It's the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Now it's the perfect time to join. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Things are looking pretty bleak for the Orlando Magic right now. Let's not pretend otherwise. Let's not get around it otherwise. You look at the standings and you can see it. The Orlando Magic are currently in 7th place in the Eastern Conference. They are 23-21, 3-7 in their last 10 games, losing 3 straight. They're struggling. They've lost 19 of their last 28, and I don't think it's that many, but they've lost a lot of games. Lost a lot of games here over the last couple of weeks. And injuries have hit them. Their net rating for the season is even. They're like a 107.7 offensive and defensive rating now. They have hit the valley of the season, or at least what we hope is the valley of the season. And this is honestly what we expected when the Magic first faced their injuries. When Paolo Banchero first went out, this is kind of the struggle we expected to see. It was surprising that the Magic survived as long as they did. But obviously, they played the last 8 games without Jalen Suggs, without Franz Wagner, and except for the last 4 or 5, without Paolo Banchero. And now they're playing without Goga Bitadze. Orlando is playing with 3 of their 5 main starters out. And I know Wendell Carter was a opening night starter, but the Magic are playing at a major deficit. And that's been kind of the thing that helps us cope, that gets us through this, is to say there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Franz Wagner is back in return to competition reconditioning. The Magic's 3 losses over this run were to 3 really good teams. The 24-17 Milwaukee Bucks, the 30-13 Boston Celtics, and the 26-16 Denver Nuggets. Teams that are all at least 7 games over 500. And that's obviously where we think and believe the Magic should be. They are not there. Not with the group that they have. And so while there is light at the end of the tunnel, Franz Wagner is back, reportedly doing some contact. We're expecting him back back this weekend against Detroit, most likely on Saturday, perhaps as soon as Thursday. He has been ruled out for Tuesday's game against Toronto. Jalen Suggs is back on the court doing things. He is moving around a lot more. He did have a shooting slot at the game on Sunday against Denver. Did it in the back, did not do it in front of the public. We don't know how close he is, but there is light at the end of the tunnel here. And obviously, we're still waiting on Goga Bitadze to return. More than that, there is light in the end of the tunnel because the schedule is going to soften at some point. the Magic will be able to stack up wins again. But this is the struggle we expected with all the injuries the Magic are facing. And the good news is the Magic at 23-21 are not out of anything. They're tied with the Atlanta Hawks. Hawks are only ahead of them on percentage points. We still got them 4 times. I'm not worried about Atlanta. Sorry, no offense to Atlanta. We'll see what they look like when they play each other. The Magic are just a game and a half back of Indiana for 5th. They're 2.5 back of Milwaukee. Heck, they're 5 games back of the Knicks for 3rd. I don't think they'll catch the Knicks, but they're not so far out of this race. And we knew the East race was going to be tight. So we maybe have to reset our expectations to what we thought at the beginning of the season. And yeah, we should be disappointed the Magic are in this spot and in this situation. But we know how much better this team can and how much better this team will play. According to both Tankathon and according to Positive Residual, the Magic have the 3rd easiest schedule remaining in the league based on opponent win percentage. That will change, obviously, because the Magic have 3 games left against the Toronto Raptors. They'll play them on Tuesday. They have 2 games left against Portland. They have 2 games left against Charlotte. I believe they have 3 games left against Washington. There are chances for the Magic to stack up wins. And as I mentioned last week, the Magic have a lot of home games coming up. They play this road gaming in Toronto, got 2 home games, 6-game road trip, and then they have a lot of home games to finish out the month, to finish out February and get into March. The Magic aren't where they want to be. They've killed their cushion. They had a little bit of a cushion. They built it up. They built their lead. But they're still right where they need to be. They'll have to play well when everybody gets healthy, but getting everybody healthy should mean they're going to play well. It is clear this Magic team is still trying to kind of find their way and find themselves with all the injuries they're facing. The Magic that we are seeing on the floor right now is not the Orlando Magic. They're wearing the uniforms. They are the players. They're so good they can contribute, but they're not meant to carry the burden that this team has asked them to carry, especially with Paolo Banchero not being at an elite level. It's what I wrote about in yesterday's newsletter, that right now the Magic are just not the team that they need to be. And so, again, we're at a low point. No doubt about it. 3-game losing streak, 3 non-competitive games against the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Nuggets. 3 teams that, frankly, the Magic should be trying to compete with just when they are healthy. That's not the comparison that we need to make. I'm not going to lose sleep. I'm disappointed they weren't more competitive. I'm disappointed that the defense has slipped. They got a 117 defensive rating over the last 4 or 5 games. They're playing their worst basketball of the season right now, and their record reflects it. The question becomes, can this group right the ship? As they're constructed, can they right the ship? And that's why Tuesday's game is going to be so important. I'm going to talk a little bit more specifically about Tuesday's game here in a minute. But Orlando's still able to do all the things they need to do. They are 13-3 against teams with records below 500. Those 3 losses, Paolo Banchero's torn oblique against the Bulls. Franz Wagner's torn oblique against the Sixers, and the first game without Jalen Suggs after his injury against the Jazz. So far, the Magic have not taken bad losses. But all those are understandable. That's the reason why Tuesday's game is so important. Because now the Magic are playing an opponent that gives them a chance to make mistakes. And that's why it's not time to panic yet. And frankly, being around the team on Sunday, it doesn't feel like there's panic. As I mentioned on yesterday's show, the Magic have been here before. The Magic were in this exact same scenario at 23-21 at this point of the season last year. They were in 8th place, 3.5 games back of where they would ultimately finish in 5th place in the Eastern Conference. They have been here before, and they have the opportunity to stack up wins again and put themselves back into a playoff position. Now, is this stretch, the stretch that the Magic promised us they would avoid, losing these random games in January, is this stretch going to make the last few weeks of the season stressful? Absolutely. The last weeks of the season are going to be extremely stressful. It's going to go to the wire. Game 81 in Indianapolis, game 82 in Atlanta are going to be insanely important. Just no getting around it. Just insanely important. But it's not time to panic because every team in the league goes through bad stretches. The Boston Celtics are going through a bad stretch right now. The New York Knicks are going through a bad stretch right now. Everybody in the league goes through this. Just like even tanking teams. The Charlotte Hornets are on a 3-game win streak right now. They're 4-6 in their last 10. Every team finds a pocket of success too. And so, like that, the Magic are going to find success again too. And more likely than not, once they're healthy, they're going to zoom back up the standings. But having said all that, this period has shown some real weaknesses, some real concerns, some real frustrations that it is time to address. What the Magic need to do at the trade deadline coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner, or an official sportsbook partner, of the NFL. The Orlando Magic have a predicament then. With 2 weeks to go until the trade deadline, how do we evaluate this team? How do we assess this team? How do we figure out what the next step for this team is? Because a lot of the reason why I think I'm not panicking, because I just generally don't panic, but a lot of the reason why I would tell you not to panic is we know Franz Wagner is coming back within the next week, maybe week and a half. I see no way he is not back before the Magic start their West Coast road trip in Portland. I find it very hard to believe Franz Wagner is not playing Saturday against Detroit. I am not putting it past anybody to have Franz Wagner back in the lineup Thursday, although the Magic are only scheduled to have a shoot-around before then, and I think the Magic want to get him in a practice, and the Magic won't practice before Portland, and they're scheduled to practice, I think, on Friday before they play the Pistons. I'll have a shoot-around before the Pistons, so there's a final hurdle for Franz Wagner to clear, but if he follows the same timeline as Paolo Banchero, he is set to come back Saturday against Detroit or Monday in Miami. There's no way he's not back before the road trip. And that West Coast road trip is a big indicator, because that West Coast road trip is the last week before the trade deadline. At Portland, at Utah, at Golden State, at Sacramento, at Denver. At Denver, February 6th, trade deadline day. And I think it is fair to assume that the Magic probably believe this too. We don't know how good our team is. We saw signs when Franz was playing and Paolo was out just how good this team could be and just what this team can accomplish. We need to give them the chance to show us how good they are, to show us what they can do. I would argue that the way, especially with knowing how this front office tends to operate, this group, as constructed, has kept this team afloat. They have earned the opportunity to finish the job. Whatever that means, wherever that ends up, they have earned the opportunity to see this thing through thick, through thin, through success, through failure. But I don't think that's how this world works. I don't think that's the way successful successful organizations that value people, yeah, that's probably how they work. Successful teams that win championships, I think they got to be a little more proactive. And I am a proponent. I agreed with the Magic's decision to have a little more continuity, to not try and do anything crazy, to make a smaller move. And by smaller move, I mean just less volume of moves. Adding Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was a big move, one that I would argue has been pretty successful. I think Kenny will have a better season next year shooting-wise. Now that he's comfortable, now that the Magic maybe know how to use him, he's been amazing on defense. He has been so good for this team on defense. But this gets to the other issue. Do the Magic have enough right now to compete with the Knicks, the Bucks, the Cavs, and the Celtics? If ultimately their goal is to be a top 4 team, do they have enough to not only compete with those teams, but to beat them in a playoff series? And frankly, that is the question we don't know. Do the Magic have enough to be the 4 seed over Milwaukee when they're healthy? I think so. Do they have enough to beat them in a 4-game series or in a 7-game series? They might. I honestly, I left the game against the Bucks when Paolo first came back. Even though the Magic lost, I was like, I see nothing there that would make me feel not confident the Magic could win a 7-game series. That's the truth. Do they have enough to compete with Boston and Cleveland? And I think even there, we have to, even the most optimistic of us have to say, I'm not there yet. And that's ultimately where the Magic have to go. So obviously the next question becomes, do the Magic have enough internally to develop to get there? And frankly, this is where I'm landing right now. The Magic don't. And maybe that's not a crazy take. I don't think it's a particularly crazy take. But we can watch this roster. We can see the shooting deficiencies. We can see how gutted they've been in depth. And look, no team can really plan and succeed for long, losing their 2 best players, let alone losing their 3 best players for some time. It's hard. What the Magic have had to deal with, what the Magic have had to fight their way through, it's hard. It's not easy to have the success. And there's a reason why every coach is lining up and saying, this is incredible what Jamal Mosley has done. This is a culture that they have built. And obviously the Magic have to kind of find it again. They're struggling with it right now. They're finally seemingly succumbing to the injuries. But this season has been better in a lot of ways than any of us could have hoped with what they've been able to accomplish. But even then, it feels like they need a little bit more. Especially with Mo Wagner out, the bench feels a little bare. Like there isn't enough. Like the Magic have lost one of their superpowers, one of their secret kind of scoring powers. And obviously, Paolo's not up and running yet. We're seeing offensive weaknesses and offensive cracks throughout. The Magic just don't have enough guys who are either A, creating a shot or looking for their own shot. And so if we could, and again, some of this was obvious. Yes, they needed this. We knew they needed this in the offseason. They didn't address this in the offseason. It's obvious. It's become much more difficult to overcome this season. It's become too difficult for this team to overcome this season. With all that they've lost, these weaknesses have exposed, or these absences have exposed these weaknesses bare. And now we have to ask ourselves, well, what happens if this does happen again? How can we make Paolo and Franz's life easier? How can we get them easy shots, get them spot up threes and spot up opportunities so they don't have to create as much and expose themselves perhaps to more injury? To me, the Magic need to be proactive. And if that player exists, Colin Sexton, If that player exists, whether it's Colin Sexton or Anthony Simons, I know Cam Johnson's continually connected to the Magic. There's been past interest in there. The Magic have a Tristan da Silva at home. I don't know if they need him. But if there is the possibility to add this to the team, we know they need it. Why are we waiting? Why aren't we acting? Why aren't the Magic pursuing this at full force, at full bore? That is the ultimate question. That is what the Magic have to do. And I don't know if the Magic can wait. I would say it's still far more likely the Magic wait until the offseason. Wendell Carter will become eligible to be traded. They'll probably be willing to attach one, if not both of their first to him to get something of value. And weighing that is part of this equation as well. But the bottom line is this. For a lot of people, success or failure of this season depends on the Magic getting out of the first round. And I think there will be some grace and some forgiveness because of the injuries the Magic went through that likely will affect their seeding, will likely drop them a seed line down. But we know what the Magic need. We know what the Magic will ultimately need to win in the playoffs. So why aren't we going for it? Why aren't we pursuing? Why aren't we just getting it done now? If that player is out there and the price is right, the Magic need to go for it. Because while the Magic have shouted, we are enough, and they're enough for any individual game, I believe that too. We are seeing over the long run, they are not enough. They're still the worst shooting team in the league. They currently have the worst three-point field goal percentage in Magic history, except for the inaugural season in 1990. The Magic took like 15 threes a game, not even 15 threes a game that season. The three-pointer wasn't even used. It's the only year they shot worse than 30% from three as a team. The Magic are actually working on the worst three-point shooting team since like the 2013 or 2014 Charlotte Bobcats or 2012 Charlotte Bobcats. It's been a long time since a team was this bad at shooting threes. And look, I'm not as worried about the three-point shooting as everyone else. It has knockout effects. I'm not denying that. The Magic can survive and win a game without quality three-point shooting. They can't win a playoff series. They're going to need to make threes to beat Milwaukee in a playoff series, to beat New York in a playoff series, to beat Boston in a playoff series, to beat Cleveland in a playoff series. No one considers them serious threats to win major games. Everyone recognizes they're an up-and-coming team, but it's this season is copied last year in almost every facet, even down to the record and when they went through their swoon to where they're sitting in the standings, to their records against winning and losing teams. The Orlando Magic are 10-18 against teams with records above 500. Just like last year, them and the Miami Heat have the fewest wins against these teams. The Detroit Pistons are 13-16. The Chicago Bulls are 11-17. They've got more wins against teams with records above 500. And look, dominating the games against the bad teams, that's important too. Cleveland's 18-0. Boston's 12-3. New York's 16-3. Orlando's 13-3. They are elite at beating bad teams. You've got to do that. You've got to stack up wins. But very, very clearly, and again, the Magic haven't been at full force, so maybe this is different. The Magic can't beat good teams. And at the end of the day, that's the sign you're a championship contender. The Magic clearly aren't there. And so if we know this need, if we know it, and the right guy's there that fits all the parts the Magic want, the Magic need it now. They need to improve their talent base. I've had fans complain to me about the way the Magic have played, and look, I'm not happy the Magic were not competitive in the last 3 games either. But I also looked at them and just said, like, look, the team the Magic are throwing out there, it's a notch above a tanking team. Just, taking Paolo out of it, there aren't a lot of like impact players on a playoff team in the roles that they're playing. That's how much the Magic have sunk because of the injuries. And their record reflects, their stats reflect that they don't have enough right now. And so, yes, health is going to change things. Paolo being back and up and running. Franz being back. Jalen Suggs being back will up the team's defensive energy. Goga Batadze returning is going to up the team's defensive energy and get everything feeling right again. Gary Harris was upgraded. It's questionable again. Very possible that he's back Tuesday. Getting him back and the spacing he provides, I know everyone gets on him about the field goal attempts. That's going to help. The Magic need that help. We can all see it. And even when healthy, I think they need that help. If they can trade players that they're not going to use in rotation, like Gary Harris, or frankly, Cole Anthony, who probably gets squeezed out of the rotation too. They can trade those players and get a quality bench guy to replace Mo Wagner's swagger and offensive punch. They need to do it at the deadline. And again, there are options. Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, you could argue. I wouldn't go after Jordan Clarkson. Anthony Simons could be a good option. There are options. There's people in Sacramento thinking that Keon Ellis might be available. I don't think so. Doug Christie actually is using him instead of Mike Brown. There are options out there. They don't need to be big names. But the Magic obviously need a little bit more. And it's going to come, whether it's at the deadline or at the offseason, it's going to come. But if the Magic want to be a force in the playoffs, not only do they have to be healthy, but they need a little bit more. And I agree with the decision not to force a trade on this, but we've learned what we need to learn. We know what needs to happen. And whether it happens now or at the deadline, it's going to happen. Let's go to today's show. We'll talk about a must-win game on Tuesday against the Toronto Raptors. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Basketball season is heating up, and there is no better way to get real money action while watching your favorite NBA stars than with Prize Picks. Whether you're a diehard fan or just love some friendly competition, Prize Picks makes it fun and easy to turn your basketball knowledge into cash. Here's how it works. Pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. If you think LeBron's going to drop 30 points, or maybe Luka is going to get more than 8 assists, Prize Picks lets you make your predictions and put your money where your mouth is in just 60 seconds. Prize Picks is the daily fantasy game that I play. There are no confusing salary cap rules. There's no confusing scoring systems. You're not swimming with the sharks against professional players who put thousands of entries in to make sure they win the big prize. It's just you versus the numbers. You versus your picks. It's you and your skill. And with Prize Picks flex play option, even if one of your picks doesn't hit, you could still double your money. Plus, when you hit, you get your money fast, sometimes as quick as 15 minutes. It's honestly the best way to keep the game exciting. Now is the perfect time to join. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Another reason why you shouldn't be panicking. Another reason why you shouldn't be kind of like up in arms or going crazy about how the Magic are playing is it's January. Good teams go through troughs. Good teams go through valleys. It's all about peaking in March and April. And so, look, the Magic are going to have the chance to bake up some wins again. I'm very, very confident that they're going to pick up steam again. Am I happy that we're following the same path that we followed last year? No. You want to see growth. You know, the Magic promised us they would avoid the random nights in January losses that they've had over the course of this week and of this season. But this is a path the Magic have walked before. We know that they can walk this path. We know that they've survived and played well despite tons of injuries and a lot of guys missing. They're going to be fine at the end of the day. Or I believe they will be fine at the end of the day. Maybe they're not. but I believe they will be fine at the end of the day. Having said that, after these 3 really bad losses, and again, there is no shame in losing to the Bucks on the road. There is no shame in losing to the Celtics on the road. There's no shame in losing to the Nuggets. Would you want to be more competitive? Absolutely. But even if the Magic were fully healthy, losses in all 3 of those games, very, very possible. Just those are good teams playing well right now. The Magic are not playing well right now. That only makes Tuesday's game against Toronto that much more important. Toronto, yes, they are coming off a really nice win over the Boston Celtics, followed by a blowout loss to the Milwaukee Bucks. They are 10-32. They are 14th in the Eastern Conference. They are 7-29 against teams with records above 500. Obviously, they're going to play a lot more of those because they're one of the teams under 500. They are 3-7 in their last 10 games, just like the Orlando Magic. They are 9-13 at home, 1-19 away from Scotiabank Arena. This is a team, no offense to our friends in Toronto, they have some nice players. They are a dangerous team for this Magic team to face because Orlando is not whole either. Orlando's struggling too. But this is the kind of game you got to get. This is the kind of game you got to find a way to win because these are the teams you cannot afford to lose to. Orlando already took you're going to take some bad losses throughout the season. You're not going to go perfect against these teams. But this is a team that, A, allows you to make mistakes. You don't have to be perfect. You can miss some shots. You can, not be too lax on defense. But if you play defense at even just an average level for the Magic, you're going to give yourself a chance to win. With the way the Raptors play defense and how much they struggle defensively, Orlando should be able to score. They're not running into a Boston team that's good defensively or a Milwaukee team that's better defensively now or a Denver team that's playing some really good defense right now. You're not running into a situation where if you fail to score on 2 or 3 straight possessions, you're going to get punished for that. Toronto is going to make mistakes. They're going to beat themselves a little bit too. And look, that doesn't mean you're going to win. You still got to execute. You still got to make the shots. You still got to defend. You don't just roll it. The Magic are not good enough right now to roll in and beat anybody. They've got to play well. But you don't have to play perfect. I've used this analogy a lot over the years. Steve Clifford was the one that kind of said this a bunch where, we have 4 or 5 things we got to do to win. And if we do those 4 or 5 things, we're going to win. When you're a good team, let's expand it to make it easier. If every team probably has 6 or 7 things you got to do to win. And against really good teams like Denver, with the way the Magic are missing guys and don't have a margin for error, they had to do all 6 or 7. Honestly, you go back and look at the box score on Sunday's game, Orlando did 5 or 6 of the things they needed to do to win. They forced turnovers. They got to the offensive glass. They made more threes. They did a lot of things that are encouraging. They played with good energy. The key difference, the 2 things they didn't do, kept Denver in the game. They didn't defend well. They fouled a lot. And they didn't shoot the ball well enough. They didn't shoot the ball well besides making more threes than Denver. Against Toronto, if there are 6 or 7 things the Magic have to do, they could probably get away with 4 or 5. If they force a lot of turnovers, they're going to get to the basket. They're going to score enough points. If they make their threes like they did in the last meeting up in Toronto, they're going to score enough points to give their defense the ability to make a few mistakes and be fine. Now, again, I want to reiterate this. The Raptors have talent. Scotty Barnes is very good. He's going to have to play a little bit more point guard right now because Emmanuel Quickley's out. But he can be very good. The Magic didn't see RJ Barrett in the first game. RJ Barrett is having a very good season. He's looked really comfortable in that role, an excellent pick and roll player. The Magic will have to deal with him. He can go off. Jakob Poeltl is a monster on the boards. He scored 25 against the Magic in the first meeting. Orlando is going to need Paolo Banchero to play well. He did not play well Sunday and frankly did not play well Friday in Boston. He's got to play well to give this team a chance, to give this team a chance to just breathe and not feel like they have to force everything, to free up others. They're going to need someone else to step up with them, whether it's Cole Anthony, whether it's Tristan Da Silva, who had a big game against Toronto the last time they were there, whether it's Wendell Carter. Someone else is going to have to come along for the ride. But Toronto's defense is very permissive. They will give up points. And if the Magic play anywhere closer to the defense that we know they're capable of playing, they'll be able to contain this Raptors team. There are no must-wins in January, but the Magic need a confidence boost. They need proof that they're okay. They're not panicking. I don't sense panic. I don't sense concern from that locker room. That's because they're playing teams that are just like, well, that's a good team. They've got to win these kinds of games. These are the games that still prove to you like, okay, we got this. We're fine. They just need the boost. They need the good feeling. It's been a while since they had this good feeling. The Magic haven't won back-to-back games in a month. The last time the Magic won back-to-back games was December 21st against the Heat, December 23rd against the Celtics. It's been a rough month. And so the Magic need to get that feeling again. And again, I don't want to take away too much from Toronto because I think they are a more dangerous team than their record indicates. These are your get-right games. These are your games where you find it. If you play with intensity, if you play with precision, if you play with focus, you'll get the win. I thought Orlando came out with great energy in response to the blowout to the Bucks against Boston. Boston just made shots. I thought Orlando came out with great energy against the Nuggets, played an excellent first half, kind of lost the plot. Even Jamal Mosley admitted they kind of ran out of gas in that third quarter. The Magic come out with good intensity against this Raptors team, put themselves in the lead, control this game. Yeah, they'll probably have a dip somewhere, but that puts them in a good position to win this game. Give Toronto hope, let their home crowd carry and lift them, have to play catch up against them. I don't think this team's going to do that. And it'll be just another kind of sign that, yeah, the Magic are going through it right now and in a really tough spot. This is a must win. As much of a must win as a game against the 14th best team in the East can be in January. The Magic have to find their way and find their confidence again. And that's ultimately what will carry them through the day. But we'll see. 7:30 tip-off. We'll talk about it on Locked On Magic tomorrow. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipR_OMD. Find me on Blue Sky at PhilipRR for the latest on the you can subscribe to the podcast, on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all Mates on podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can find us on YouTube as well. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, including a look at a crazy trade deadline idea that I saw that is ridiculous, but also kind of had a point about another issue the Magic are facing. You can check that out on OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Follow us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. For even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. And as always, you can now subscribe to Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter, the one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic Newsletter. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.